This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Financially Fit Business. Go to www.financiallyfit.business to start your journey to financial freedom in less than 10 minutes a month. Thank you for joining us. Here's how we will help your business and you today. We know that we, quote unquote, can't save time. But what if you could help technicians be more efficient, making the time that they have more productive and billable? And you know me with billable hours. You might recognize my guest today, Aaron Salo, CEO of XOI Technologies. XOI has a new integration with Bluon that will bring workflow improvements and decrease wasted time. You know, those pesky unbillable hours that cost you. Aaron, welcome to Contractor Sense.
Ruth, so excited to be back with you. Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure to have you back. So you know me in unbillable hours, right?
Yeah, I've definitely know that. That's for sure. We're excited to try to move away from that, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw this and saw it from Grant, who is I guess Grant Zecker is your PR person for this, and I was like, yes, we can finally get rid of some unbillable hours. So let's tell everybody how they can do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting. I think anything that's working on the technician experience in the field and trying to streamline it and understanding that technicians have become decision makers in a lot of ways, and our ability to serve them effectively with tools is important. So it's a good theme.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think everybody knows, well, I shouldn't make that assumption, knows XOI because you've been on a few times, but talk about Bluon, because that's probably a new word or new name for most everybody who's listening.
Yeah, so Bluon is a company that is focused on technician experience, just like XOI. It's one of the things that we really landed together on as we talk through kind of how we're impacting the industry. And they've really focused from the perspective of the parts and the supply chain side. They also do fantastic work around live video support, documentation, a variety of different things that they're doing for the technicians in the field. And it just became clear to us that there was an opportunity for us to work together to create a synergistic solution. And so for folks that are unfamiliar, go check them out on their website. It's BLUON. And certainly focused on how do we get better parts information to the field. And given that we're in the field with technicians across commercial and residential contractors across North America and the world now, it really became an interesting opportunity to not only give them diagnostic information and workflow, operational guidance, but also, hey, once we get you to that point, what are all the different options that you have in terms of buying parts? Can Bluon helps with the cross-reference side, identifying those parts in the supply chain so that technicians aren't waiting at the local hardware store or waiting on next day delivery, really streamlining that process on a job site. So that's why we're excited about the partnership and certainly what they brought to the table on the supply chain side.
Well, think about it this way. I think it was Wind Supply. Someplace in, I think, Ohio, that did the first drone delivery of a part.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, granted, that's not what XOI and Bluon are doing, but what from what I can gather, it's making the time to figure out where the part is and what it is and what's needed and all that stuff, shrink that significantly, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you think about the job site, it's been largely ignored by the technology industry for the last 2 decades. Technology was focused on running the business, which was a good thing too. But it was, hey, once we get to the technician to a job site, so good luck, and call a friend, search Google, wait on hold with the distributor or the OEM, and kind of go figure it out. And what we're realizing now is that, I think COVID accelerated this. I think generally the skilled trades gap gets worse every day. What is that connection point between human and machine? And well, it requires diagnostics. It requires knowledge about that equipment, which is changing on a yearly basis. And it requires parts. And so when you think about that job site experience, there's a multitude of different ways to attack it. I think the thing that we've always focused on is continuous, not episodic use cases, meaning, XOI is something technicians use in every job. And so in those circumstances, if they need parts, then that's a step that we weren't addressing directly with our customers. And so as Blue On was, kind of addressing that particular opportunity, it became clear that them within our ecosystem really could work.
Yeah, the interesting part is I love it. Phone a friend. Let's go back to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. But you're right. That's really what happened. They got stuck in like no man's land. If they needed parts or something like that, they could call a dispatcher. They could call, if the dispatcher could take their call. And most dispatchers don't have the technical capability. I know some of you out there do, so I'm not talking about you. But, even the people who order parts, who are sitting in the warehouse, they don't necessarily have the technical expertise to know the right part for the situation. And this, I think, eliminates a lot of that, correct?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it also creates an actual experience that may remove some of the gating factors for a technician. So I think in some cases, we've made it harder on techs throughout the industry. You mentioned dispatchers and those types of things. That's one route. Well, you also have hardware stores. You have the ability to, I got to go run and get that, or I've got to deal with a counter person, or I've got to, oh gosh, my company's got me using this e-commerce platform that doesn't always have what I need. Maybe I'm uncomfortable with universal parts that are available because I don't know how to install those. I think that's another really interesting opportunity in our partnership is, XOI is really about helping technicians consistently complete work in the field. If I get a part from Blue On, or I look for an OEM part that's not available, but they can offer me a cross-reference universal part. Gosh, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that wiring harness because it looks like a rat's nest. Well, here's a video from XOI on how to put that wiring harness in.
Yeah.
Right. So it also opens other options for technicians that may be uncomfortable with any given part or system, and really flexible in doing that. Now, that being said, maybe we work together to use drones to drop technicians at homes in the future. We could do that too, I've seen people hanging from drones before.
No, but, don't laugh.
We'll be doing this for now.
Yeah, the drones today can pick up to 500 pounds. There are drones that can do that. I've seen pictures of it. And so no tech that I know of weighs 500 pounds.
No. It's too much sweat and too much hard work to be 500 pounds. It's funny. I'll admit this for the first time publicly. I can find myself getting lost on some YouTube shorts, which is effectively TikTok, but YouTube's version. And yes, I saw some college kid hanging from a drone over a lake, and I went, "Oh wow, we can do that now." So and maybe at some point in the future.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's get back to XOI and Blue On. I mean, that's, maybe a couple of years down the future. If they can do parts, they can do people. That's the way I look at it. So, for all intents and purposes, what we're trying to do, I think, is help the tech and help the customer, correct?
That's right.
So when is this?
If we can have better customer deliverables, I mean, that's at the end of the day, I think there's kind of back to one of the core reasons and things we learned at XOI, and this is just another evolution. Customer experience can be customers inherently distrust contractors at some level, right? I think we've all had those experiences. And I think there's great contractors out there that continue to build great reputation. And a lot of them are listening to this, likely are those contractors because they're taking the time to learn and get better. But the reality is we've all had those stories, is that person telling me the truth? What's going on? And those things are only exacerbated by, he's on the phone a lot, or gosh, he left for 4 hours and came back with one rubber gasket. What was he doing? Am I getting charged for all of that? And so it just continues to provide more and more transparency in the process and a faster process, which ultimately is going to really transform customer experience.
Sure. All right. Before we take a break, if somebody wants more information, where do they go?
Yeah, so xoi.io or bluon.com are two places that you can learn about both companies, and we, of course, announced the partnership and continued integration. So one thing we're stating about this before we jump topics is XOI customers will be able to launch a Blue On parts experience out of XOI, the platform that they're in every single day. And then we'll also be in the future kind of connecting XOI from Blue On as well. So really, again, to the point of technician kind of experience and adoption, making sure that's a seamless experience for technicians that are out in the field.
Very good. Thank you. And we will be right back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense.
Are you one of the contractors who enjoys getting and analyzing your financial statements each month? If not, it's probably because you haven't taken the time to discover what your profit and loss statement and balance sheet are telling you. And you probably are not making good business decisions based on timely, accurate financial statements. You know you have to do something about this, but where do you turn? Ruth King's Makes Your Financial Statements Fun and Sexy online course. These easy to understand 4 sessions explain financial statements in English rather than accounting babble. You'll discover what your financial statements mean and how to analyze them each month. Then you'll have the info you need to spot minor issues and take care of them before they become major crises and run you out of cash. Enroll today. Click on the link in the show notes or call us at 770-729-0258.
Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. I am talking with Aaron Salo, and we are talking about, well, the first part of the program talked about the integration of Bluon with the XOI technology and platform so that we can actually take care of the parts piece along with everything else that XOI does. Now, after the break, let's talk about AI. I mean, we look at it in so many different ways. I mean, there's so many things out there right now, what works, what doesn't work. And you've got strong opinions about it. I have strong opinions about it. Let's have a debate. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds great. I love it.
So,
Yeah, I think, I'll kind of kick off the thought that I think is kind of permeating everyone's mind. When they see AI, they're like, okay, we're going to build an AI agent, right? We're going to have an Autobot to talk to. It's going to give us everything that we need on a particular job site. And I think that self-serve diagnostic reality is the future in a lot of ways. I think the thing that I would point to is that you got to realize the users are talking about. Of course, at XOI, we think specifically around the technician. There are applications for folks in the office and owners and things like that that may take care of menial kind of busy work tasks that I'm not talking about in this statement. But I think from a technician perspective, when you see an AI agent that says, hey, ask me a question, and it's built on the backbone of maybe proprietary data set or ChatGPT plus, some sort of proprietary data. When you see an application that gives you a 14-paragraph answer to a given question, and you think a technician is going to read that in a 104-degree hot day and then try to ask the right kind of prompt to get an answer, you haven't talked to many technicians, right? And so I just think that the first time that thing hallucinates, a tech is like, that'll be the last time I use that. And so we just think a lot about that experience, how specific it is. And I think as an industry, we got to be careful about, technology companies are listening to their boards, tell them, you got to release AI. It's all I read about. Let's push AI out to these field markets, field service markets. And so they're forced to release these things that our teams look at when they come out and just go, gosh, you're going to have a real hard time with adoption. So I think that's happening in a lot of industries. I think ours specifically, we have a high BS meter, especially from technicians, which is why I love blue collar people. It's why I'm one of them. And I think we need to make sure that we have solutions that are meaningful, impactful, especially when it comes to the field, and balance those things. So that's the first maybe contrarian viewpoint based on what I see technology companies doing.
No.
Although I think there are a ton of useful applications.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have the same opinion. We're looking at it. I am, I launched Financially Fit Business, and it's manual right now. I'm looking for we're going to end up having to develop it ourselves, we think, simply because there's nothing out there. They say they read financial statements. They don't. There's so many people saying we do this and we do that and we do this. Well, they may do it for large corporations, but what we do is messy. I mean, it's really messy. I mean, think about a technician. How many times did they do the same thing twice in a day? Not very often.
Yeah, not very often. No.
It's like a financial statement. I can take one contractor's financials and another contractor's financials and another contractor's financials, and they're all slightly different. Now, they have the basis for P&Ls and balance sheets, and that doesn't go away, but different things are on different spots. And the format for Sage, for example, is not the same format as it is for QuickBooks, and QuickBooks Online is not the same as it is for desktop, and we go on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you and I are seeing exactly the same thing. There's all these people saying they can do all this stuff, and it's garbage.
Yeah, I agree. It's easy to do, Ruth? Make a marketing video. That's what's easy to do, right? And people push this stuff out there and go, look at all this magic that's going to happen. And the reality is, look, AI is I think the biggest thing since the Gutenberg press. I do think it's going to have a substantial impact on human life and work and all those things. I just think when it comes to the markets we're talking about, our market, I think there's nuance to it that has to be accounted for, and some of the ways you're talking financially and the technician experience. I'll give you an example of something we're releasing here very shortly as an example of how we view how AI can help. So our technicians, have been taking video content in the field in the form of workflows for quite some time. We've been capturing kind of symptom issue resolution. Like technicians are evaluating what they think it is, the kind of challenges that they're seeing. They're documenting this through photo, video, notes, and they're coming up with the solution. So we have a really unique view on how that asset is performing. And so in aggregate for a company or a peer group, we can start to ascertain some really interesting insights about how certain types of certified technicians perform on certain types of equipment. And that's really fascinating to help understand how effective and efficient we are. But what we did is we took that existing workflow, that work that techs are already doing to wow the customer, to give the office better information, all those use cases we've talked about in the past, and said, hey, what we know techs hate doing is taking great notes. There's some that are verbose and love to, but a lot of techs are like, look, I didn't get hired to write novels all day.
That's
so
right.
What else do you need from me? And we created AI generated work summaries. So we're taking those workflows that are already being created, and through generative AI, creating some just beautiful technical detailed notes of what happened on the job site. And we have a customer that has been beta testing this. They expect to save $2 million a year in lost time from technicians sitting in vans, kind of trying to articulate, complex commercial jobs that they were doing, versus saying, just do your normal XY workflow. And it creates, with bullets, proper grammar, spelling, a complete review of that job for the customer, for the office, for accounting. And it may sound simple to people that are trying to build an AI agent that spits out 14 paragraphs for every question you give it. But the reality is, this is real busy work that technicians are fighting every day in the field that we can streamline and speed up. And so we look through that lens of what is that unnecessary busy work that we know with confidence a technician will really find a ton of value in every day, which also will hit every other stakeholder. Yeah. And that's the lens we want to keep looking through at XOI versus the shiniest possible thing that we know will get stomped on if not done well.
No, and that's true. And everybody who's listening going, okay, that's easy. Baloney. It's not easy. Not even close to be easy. It takes a lot of data points, and you have the data points now. And, you and I can probably have this wonderful conversation about, XY. Now, I will say I did something really crazy in ChatGPT 4. I said, create a script using banana bread as the main theme. I just wanted to see what it would do. And, it came up with something that was not half bad. Not that I could use it, but I mean, it's a starting point for where everything is, which I found interesting. Yeah. So there are some things that are probably non-technical that AI and ChatGPT 4 do pretty well right now, although there still is some things you got to be careful about with, false things and things along those lines. But I think you and I are about the same point about AI. We're going. I mean, I agree. It's going to be phenomenal. I think AI with robotics and all the computing power that's going to be here. I mean, my goodness, life's going to be very different in 10 years. It really is.
There's no question. Yeah. I have young children, and I wonder if they're going to drive a car even. I think it might be a novelty by the time they're old enough to drive. We might all be in self-driving cars in 10 to 15 years, but I do think, there is an underlying for folks that are listening going, gosh, I see the power of AI. I see what's happening and in all sorts of different ways. What can I do as a business, right, to take advantage of it? And I think we have a specific opinion on that. It may not be the only one or the exact right one, but I think that there's kind of a 4-step process that contractors can think through. Number one, how are you engaging the user in which you want to provide that experience for? So we think about technicians quite a bit and kind of think about that engagement being, how are we helping them with the boring or the germane? Some people may look at some of the foundational XOI workflows and our system and go, well, gosh, you're doing customer, recap videos, you're doing safety content, or, walkthrough, or you're doing a startup or commissioning. Now, these are daily mundane things. Well, when you engage the technician with an effective product daily, they're in it all day. Yeah. Versus when I need this and this, I have to go through all these decision gates to get to that moment. We're happy doing the germane and providing those experiences. But what that builds you as a contractor is a data set to understand what's actually happening. And so that is key, which creates that data. That's step 2. That data then needs to be transformed into step 3, some sort of insights that you can actually use. So, for example, we have mapped the asset universe of our contractors in a lot of respects, and we'll provide them how many units are end of life, how many units, or what kind of model families have these types of issues. What's your technician fixed rates or fixed times against these particular units? So gosh, these technicians are better at these units than these units. That's interesting, and how we schedule and dispatch. And then the 4th step is re-engagement. And number 1 and number 4 are the hardest things. So how am I actually taking those insights, and how am I re-engaging those users in a meaningful way that, again, to the point, isn't moon talk, but is something they can use every single day that's trusted? And how do we build towards that self-serve diagnostic place? And it's interesting, as I talk to all these AI companies that are out there that are doing pure AI, they go, hey, we got this engine that's incredible, and we got all these super smart PhD data scientists working on all the cool things. All we need is a data source and then a distribution source, which is engage and re-engage. I need to get the data from somewhere because it's nuanced, and then I have to be able to distribute it back to someone who can actually use it. So those are kind of important for us. We feel like those are kind of foundational pieces for a contractor to think about if they want to take advantage of this kind of revolution.
Yep, I agree. XOI.io. Aaron, thanks so much for being with us.
Ruth, thank you so much. So much fun.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. Choose one thing you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email ruthking@hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.